How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Escape from LA. This is a direct sequel to John Carpenter's Escape from New York, and in fact, this movie came out in 1996, which is just 1 year before Escape from New York's not too distant future. This movie is directed by John Carpenter, in the first time he ever directed a sequel to one of his films. I mean, there would be sequel to Carpenter films, but he would usually just produce them and let someone else direct, and then he would do loosely connected things like the Apocalypse trilogy, but this is the first and only direct sequel that he ever came back for, so interesting to see him returning to the world. And this movie stars, once again, Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. We also have Stacy Keach, Steve Buscemi, A.J. Langer, and I'm a horror fan, so I have to mention, we have a brief and quite bizarre cameo from Bruce Campbell, so always cool to see him. But this is one of those movies with a reputation behind it. This is the bad sequel to Escape from New York. And, you know, I watched New York a lot more than I watched this, and it had been quite a while since I had seen LA, and I was wondering how it would hold up on a rewatch. And I want to say, you know, like, rewatching this, the flaws are there, and it definitely isn't anywhere near as good as Escape from New York, but it's not the horrible atrocity people make it out to be. You know, Kurt Russell is Snake Plissken. He's back, and he still very much is the character. We're gonna have fun sequences with him, fun, you know, bits of his attitude, and we're gonna get some cool moments. We're also gonna get moments where he plays basketball or goes surfing. Yeah, that's not great, especially that poorly Compton wave. Nah. So there are good moments and there are bad moments, and it also is way too much calling back to the first one. They'll have moments that are so on-the-nose direct parallels, but changing them just slightly. And usually when they change, it's not as cool, you know? It's New York, now it's LA. He's going to save the president's daughter, not the president. And LA is a deportation zone and not a prison. Yeah, it's really, really similar, and that's just the basic big parts. There's several other little things as well, you know. He has a disease, not bombs in his neck. He's going to a Maps to the Stars guy instead of a taxi. So many very, very similar elements. To be honest, this movie kind of feels like an Escape from New York knockoff that somehow got the real Snake Plissken in it. So yeah, a bit too on the nose, and while it has good moments, definitely has some dumb, stupid moments in there as well. And I think a good comparison is this is kind of like Ghostbusters 2. Escape from New York and the original Ghostbusters were both very good lightning in a bottle movies. And then they had a sequel that was flawed, and everybody would talk about it like it's the worst thing ever. But over time, people kind of calmed down, and I think a lot of people say now it's not near as good as the first, but it's still fine. It's not as creative, it's not as atmospheric, it's not near as tense as the first one was, but if you want more Snake Plissken, if you want to go back to the world of Escape from New York, there is one more movie, and if you're a big fan, why not check it out and watch it a few times? You know, it's not great, but it isn't an abomination or anything. It's just an inferior sequel that does have its moments. Let's talk a little bit about the plot. No major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and do a little bit of an analysis. I don't have to ruin the end to do that, but let's, from here on out, dig a little deeper. We open up, and it talks about what happened right after Escape from New York. New York was 97, we're going to talk about 98, and we get to find out that there was a huge earthquake that separated Los Angeles from the continental United States, so now it's its own island. And I kind of wonder, you think maybe that wasn't natural? Maybe the government did that? They don't really speculate on that too much, but I do kind of wonder. But anyway, LA was immoral, and they're kind of glad to see it go, and they decide to wall off the coast and use it as a deportation center. And then we jump to 2013, which, yeah, I don't know, much more familiar with the year 2013. That kind of seems funny that that's a dystopian future. Whatever. They did keep roughly the same amount of years for the time jump, so interesting they did that. If you want to find out what Snake was doing between the movies, because it is quite a long jump, Boom Studios did put out a series of Escape from New York comics that do pick up right after part 1 and kind of help bridge the gap. So if you do want to know more, that's what's going on during the time jump. But it's been a while. Snake's been on the run, and they're gonna catch him, but once they catch him, they're just gonna so happen to need something from him, and they're going to send Snake on a mission. Well, you have the new president, and to be honest, I don't like the new president near as much as Donald Pleasance. I mean, Donald Pleasance was a classic actor. He was great in the first movie, great as always. Sadly, when they started production on this movie, he was not in the best of health and would actually die, I think, right before production started on this. So they had to go with someone else. And you know how I said Donald Pleasance was, had hints of Richard Nixon, but it was very much its own thing. It wasn't on the nose, and it had a good layered performance. New president is just a parody of Reagan. Kind of disappointing, especially not having Pleasance back. But whatever, he's appointed himself president for life. And if you want to know about Pleasance's character, basically the comics will say that he was impeached after the music incident, so Snake kind of got him there. But new president, his daughter, meant a revolutionary in VR. Yeah, that's kind of silly, especially now that VR is actually kind of a thing, to see old school cheesy VR, and then we get a cheesy sequence where she takes something and gets into an escape pod, and, they don't actually show the escape pod. That's what this cheesy sequence needed, but she grabs what's known as the black box with some mysterious device in it and escapes to LA. So Snake's gonna have to go get her. And I don't know, man, this whole sequence with the VR and then her talking to the camera on the plane and what I don't think is a green screen but looks like a green screen for some reason. Yeah, this really feels like a mockbuster section that's in a real Escape from New York movie. Whatever. They scratch Snake, and now he has a disease. And if he doesn't get the president's daughter, well, the black box, he doesn't really care about the daughter, but if he doesn't get the black box in 10 hours, he's gonna die. And again, that's another thing I don't like. The bomb in the neck, that's way cooler. And if they have that technology, I don't know why they wouldn't just use it again. And also, diseases, you don't have a countdown. When you go to the hospital and someone is sick and dying, you don't get a doctor going 10, 9, 8. No, you don't know how long someone's gonna take to die. And the fact that it's just so close, but they changed it slightly, a little on the nose, and even though he only has 10 hours this time around, even though it's less time, it just doesn't feel as tense. So it wasn't just the countdown, it was the pacing and the tone of the movie that made New York feel so tense, because, yeah, I don't know, it's less time, but I didn't care as much. Whatever. The first movie, he gets to New York in a glider, so let's do something similar, but slightly different, and now he has a sub, but that gets us a fun but kind of dumb CGI sub sequence where he's going underwater, passing all these underwater buildings, and we even get this joke that I don't know if I 100% get, because he passes by Universal Studios and a big shark almost eats him. I think it's John Carpenter going, "Hey, I'm making a sequel, and Jaws was known for having a bunch of sequels, but they were known for being bad. What were you predicting your own movie was going to be bad?" I don't know, but I like to think that because this shark was right next to Universal, that this is a Jaws, you know, like, I don't know why I want them to be in the same world. Get this, a prequel to Escape from New York, where Snake is still in the military, and he's on the new Indianapolis, and it goes down, and he's left in the water and has to fight Jaws. Call it Escape from Jaws. Whatever, I'm on a tangent. Back to the movie. He gets to LA, and again, LA is basically just New York, and I wish it was different. You know, in real life, LA, you have glamour, but with a seedy underbelly, and doing a post-apocalyptic piece, you could further emphasize the two sides to the LA coin, but you really didn't. And having it be a deportation zone and not a prison, you do get every now and then someone talking about how America was so strict, and even though we're cast out into this place, we still kind of feel like at least we have some freedom, even if it's at this price. And that's an interesting idea, but characters just talk about it slightly from time to time. And overall, LA is just a clone of New York, but, you know, New York, you had like the shadow figures moving in the distance. It was so much more grungy and atmospheric, so not just a clone of New York, but a less impressive one. And the atmosphere is here from the last movie, just not as good, you know? So it's a solid enough backbone to build your foundation on, just not used as good as it was in the first one. But eventually, Snake will meet some people. He'll meet Steve Buscemi, who does Maps to the Stars, so like a taxi, but not exactly. And he's a good character. Steve Buscemi is a really great actor. Good to see him here. And I love that he kind of does a Hollywood agent thing where you're not quite sure if he actually has your best interest at heart. He's cool, but we don't really get as many people, you know? Snake in New York, inadvertently building this little team with Brain and Adrienne Barbeau. Like, there was better side characters in New York, too. Here, it's pretty much just Buscemi, and he's good, but he really isn't even an ally super hard, you know? Snake didn't build his crew as good, you know? And, like, that's also one of the things, is the side characters here aren't as interesting. Like, Snake doesn't even get recognized in this movie near as much as he did in the first one, and I get time has passed and he's not as relevant, but I loved in New York how many people would recognize him, and I just wish the other humans were better in this movie, because you still have Kurt Russell, but the side characters aren't as good. And like I said, the tension with the bomb, well, not a bomb, a disease, that's not as good. The side missions are a little goofy, like I said, you know, surfing and basketball, you know. A basketball challenge is not as cool as a gladiatorial arena, I'm sorry. But less focus, just kind of bouncing around, getting to the end. Overall, we will have some good adventures and we will have some good ideas, but it's a retread of New York and not as good of a retread as it was the first time. Overall, though, it isn't terrible. It does have its moments. It does stay moving at a fast enough clip. It does have something interesting, but it's just not the classic that the first one was. If you want more Escape from New York, you got this. But yeah, definitely New York is way better than LA. Anyway, though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my John Carpenter playlist where you can see my review for Escape from New York, as well as other things like Halloween in the Fog. Anyway, have a good day. See you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.